The possibility of sharp, agile mind well into the later decades of life is not merely a matter of genetic luck, but a result of conscious alignment with nature's intelligence. Many individuals accept a narrative of inevitable mental decline, believing that fog and forgetfulness are the steep taxes paid for longevity. Yet this resignation often stems from a disconnection from the vibrant sources of energy available in the natural world. A different path exists, one where the physical vessel is honored as a temple and fueled by high-frequency nutrition that actively repairs and rejuvenates the neural pathways essential for clarity. By integrating a specific, potent dark fruit into daily life, one does not simply consume calories, but ingests a condensed form of solar energy designed to protect the brain's delicate machinery. This journey is about more than biological maintenance. It is a spiritual agreement to live fully, ensuring that the instrument of the mind remains tuned to express the wisdom accumulated over a lifetime. Nature's indigo light and the biology of intention, the deep, resonant blue pigment found in blueberries, is not just a visual identifier, but a signature of profound biological power known as anthocyanin. This compound operates as a master antioxidant, entering the body with the capability to seek out and neutralize the free radicals that cause oxidative stress, which is essentially the rusting of the body's cellular machinery over time. When an individual consumes this fruit, they're introducing a powerful agent of preservation that crosses the blood-brain barrier to work directly within the command center of the human system. The science suggests that these flavonoids do not merely patrol for damage, but actively engage with the signaling pathways that govern repair and defense. It is as if the plant kingdom has concentrated its protective essence into a small, spherical vessel, offering it as a tool for those who wish to maintain their cognitive faculties in a state of high vibration and alertness. Within the philosophy of holistic wellness, the body is often viewed not as a static object, but as a river of energy and information that is constantly renewing itself based on the materials provided. Wayne Dyer often spoke of the body as the physical manifestation of an invisible spirit, and in this context, feeding the body becomes an act of reverence for the spirit that resides within it. When one chooses high-quality, nutrient-dense foods like these berries, the intention shifts from simple hunger satisfaction to a deliberate fueling of the life force. The anthocyanins in the fruit have been shown to reduce inflammation, which is the physical counterpart to the spiritual concept of resistance or blockage. By lowering this systemic flame, the brain is liberated from the constant demand of damage control and is free to allocate energy toward higher functions like memory retention and complex problem solving. Research indicates that the hippocampus, the area of the brain responsible for encoding memories, is particularly susceptible to the ravages of age and stress, yet is also remarkably responsive to the protective qualities of this fruit. The regular intake of this indigo nourishment appears to stimulate the production of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, a protein that acts somewhat like fertilizer for neurons, encouraging their growth and connectivity. This biological process mirrors the spiritual truth that growth is the fundamental nature of the universe, and that stagnation is merely an illusion created by a lack of proper nourishment or attention. By providing the brain with the specific molecular keys it requires, the individual unlocks the potential for neurogenesis, proving that the mind is designed for expansion rather than contraction, regardless of the chronological age recorded on a birth certificate. However, the benefits of this nutritional powerhouse can be diminished if the consumption is unaccompanied by a mindset of health and vitality. If one eats the fruit while harboring thoughts of fear, resentment, or a firm belief in their own decline, the chemical environment of the body may remain hostile to healing despite the influx of antioxidants. The physical substance of the berry provides the raw material for repair, but the internal atmosphere, dictated by thoughts and emotions, determines how effectively that material is utilized. It is a limitation of the material world that a superfood cannot override a subconscious programming of decay. The two must work in harmony. Therefore, the most effective approach combines the ingestion of the fruit with a conscious affirmation of vitality, creating a synergy where the body believes in its own capacity to heal because it is being told to do so by both the mind and the diet. The mechanism of action also extends to the improvement of vascular health, ensuring that the highways of the circulatory system remain open and flexible to deliver oxygen-rich blood to the brain. Hardening of the arteries and reduced blood flow are often cited as primary culprits in cognitive decline, yet the compounds in blueberries help to relax these vessels and maintain optimal pressure. This improved flow is symbolic of an open and receptive life, where energy moves freely without the constriction of fear or the blockage of accumulated neglect. When the blood flows unimpeded, it carries not just oxygen, but the life force itself, bathing the neural tissues and the resources they need to fire rapidly and accurately. The result is a mind that feels lighter, quicker, and more capable of accessing the vast archives of memory that define a person's history and identity. There is a profound connection between the energetic frequency of the food one eats and the clarity of the thoughts one produces. Foods that are closer to the source, like sun-ripened berries, carry a higher oscillation of energy compared to processed, dead matter that has been stripped of its life force. Wayne Dyer frequently emphasized that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and to support that experience, the physical form requires high-energy fuel that aligns with a high-energy spirit. Eating these berries can be seen as an act of tuning the instrument, ensuring that the brain, the receiver and transmitter of consciousness, is free from the static of toxicity and inflammation. In this state of clarity, the memory does not fade. Rather, it becomes a more polished mirror, reflecting the depth of a life lived with purpose. A practical scenario illustrates this dynamic clearly. Imagine an individual who wakes up feeling the mental fog that often accompanies a poor diet and low energy. They might struggle to recall the name of an acquaintance or feel overwhelmed by a simple schedule, reinforcing a fear that they are losing it. Contrast this with the individual who begins their day with a bowl of dark, antioxidant-rich berries, eating them with the specific intention of nourishing their brain. Over weeks and months, the second individual notices that names come easier, that the fog lifts more quickly, and that they approach complex tasks with a sense of calm capability. This is not magic, but the predictable result of treating the biology with the same respect one would accord a divine creation. Where does my intention need to shift for my body to truly heal? Rewriting the narrative of cognitive destiny, the prevailing societal story regarding aging is one of inevitable loss, a script that many people unconsciously adopt and then act out through their biology. This surrender to the idea of senior moments acts as a powerful command to the subconscious mind, instructing the body to conform to the expectation of failure. However, the integration of memory-boosting nutrition challenges this narrative by providing physical proof that the brain is capable of plasticity and regeneration well into the later years. When an individual commits to a dietary protocol that includes brain-protecting fruits, they are engaging in a physical rebellion against the cultural trance of aging. This action disrupts the pattern of resignation and replaces it with a proactive stance, signaling to every cell in the body that the period of growth and maintenance is far from over. Wayne Dyer taught that we become what we think about all day long, and this principle applies profoundly to the state of physical health and cognitive sharpness. If the mind is filled with worry about Alzheimer's or dementia, the body is bathed in cortisol and stress hormones that actively degrade the hippocampus, effectively accelerating the very condition the person fears. Conversely, when one takes a tangible action, such as the daily consumption of nutrient-dense berries, it serves as a ritual anchor for a new belief system centered on longevity and capability. The fruit becomes a talisman of sorts, a physical manifestation of the belief that the body is resilient. This shift in perception is critical because the biology listens to the psychology. The cells obey the instructions given by the central governor of the mind. The concept of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new neural connections, aligns perfectly with the spiritual view of infinite potential and the possibility of transformation at any stage. Consuming flavonoids facilitates this plasticity by enhancing signaling in the memory centers, effectively keeping the brain in a state of youthful flexibility. It allows the individual to remain open to new ideas, to learn new skills, and to adapt to changes without the rigidity that often characterizes the aging mind. This biological flexibility supports a spiritual flexibility, where the ego's need to control and define reality softens, allowing for a more peaceful and fluid experience of life. The brain that is chemically supported to adapt is less prone to the anxiety that comes from confusion and disorientation. It is important to recognize that the benefits of this nutritional approach are not instantaneous but cumulative, requiring patience and a departure from the quick fix mentality of modern medicine. A person might eat a carton of blueberries and feel no different the next hour, leading to skepticism if they're looking for a drug-like effect. The transformation is subtle and structural, building the resilience of the cellular walls and the density of the neural networks over months and years. This requires a shift in perspective from expecting an immediate cure to embracing a lifestyle of continuous care. It is a practice of faith in the body's intelligence, trusting that the good inputs are being utilized even when the results are not immediately visible in the mirror or the mind. There are instances where nutrition alone cannot overcome the weight of unresolved emotional trauma or deep-seated resentment, which can act as a toxin more potent than any pollutant. If a person consumes the healthiest diet in the world, but carries a heavy load of bitterness or regret, the body's resources are constantly drained by the internal conflict. Wayne Dyer famously noted that you cannot be lonely if you like the person you are alone with. And similarly, you cannot be healthy if you are at war with your own history. Therefore, the consumption of brain-healthy food must be accompanied by the mental work of forgiveness and letting go. The fruit supports the hardware of the brain, but the software, the thoughts and emotions, must be cleansed of viruses for the system to run optimally. In a practical sense, this means that the morning routine of eating is also a time for mental hygiene, where one decides to release the grievances of yesterday to keep the mind current and clear. When the biology is supported by the fruit and the spirit is supported by a practice of release, the memory functions not as a storage unit for pain, but as a library of wisdom. The individual finds they can recall what is necessary and useful, while naturally letting go of the trivial or hurtful details that clutter the mind. This selective retention is a hallmark of a healthy, aging brain, distinguishing true wisdom from mere data storage. Furthermore, the act of taking charge of one's cognitive destiny empowers the individual to step out of the role of a victim of genetics and into the role of a co-creator of their health. While genetic predispositions exist, the science of epigenetics suggests that lifestyle choices can turn certain gene switches on or off. By flooding the system with the right nutrients and the right thoughts, one can effectively silence the genes associated with decline and amplify those associated with longevity. This is the ultimate realization of personal power, that the heritage of the past does not dictate the quality of the future. The simple, humble berry becomes a key that unlocks this potential, proving that the tools for a miraculous life are often hiding in plain sight. What belief about my age am I ready to release? The ritual of conscious consumption to truly harness the benefits of this powerful fruit. It must be integrated into daily life, not as a chore, but as a ritual of self-love and conscious consumption. The way one approaches the act of eating is just as important as the nutrients contained within the food, for the energy of the action is consumed along with the substance. Preparing a bowl of blueberries, perhaps mixed with walnuts or yogurt, can be a meditative practice where one acknowledges the source of the food and the journey it took to arrive. This moment of pause transforms a mundane biological necessity into a sacred transaction between the earth and the body. By slowing down and chewing thoroughly, the individual allows the digestive system to prepare, ensuring maximum absorption of the vital compounds that will travel to the brain. The quantity and consistency of consumption are key factors in unlocking the neuroprotective effects, as the body requires a steady supply of antioxidants to combat the daily accumulation of oxidative stress. Research suggests that a moderate daily serving is more effective than sporadic large doses, highlighting the power of small, consistent actions over grand, infrequent gestures. This consistency mirrors the spiritual discipline required to maintain a high level of consciousness. One does not meditate once and expect enlightenment, just as one does not eat healthy for a week and expect total renewal. It is the day-in, day-out commitment to the vessel that signals a deep respect for the gift of life. This reliability builds a foundation of trust within the body, which responds by operating with greater efficiency and less alarm. There is a practical nuance to consider regarding the form of the fruit, as modern agricultural practices can sometimes dilute the potency of fresh produce through long transit times. Frozen wild blueberries are often cited as being superior in antioxidant concentration because they are harvested at peak ripeness and immediately flash frozen, locking in the light energy and nutrients. Choosing the wild variety over the cultivated, larger berries is a decision to prioritize density and potency over size and aesthetic appeal. This choice reflects a deeper understanding that true value often lies in what is concentrated and authentic, rather than what is inflated and superficial. The wild berry, struggling against the elements, develops a stronger defense system, which is then passed on to the consumer. However, a limitation arises when the fruit is consumed in a way that spikes blood sugar or is combined with inflammatory ingredients that negate its benefits. Eating a blueberry muffin loaded with refined sugar and processed flour is not the same as eating the raw fruit. The inflammation caused by the sugar may outweigh the anti-inflammatory properties of the berries. This distinction requires the individual to be discerning and honest about their choices, recognizing that health is a sum of all inputs. It is a call to move away from the nutritionism that isolates ingredients and toward a holistic view of the diet. The fruit should be part of a symphony of whole foods, not a soloist trying to drown out the noise of a poor diet. Midway through the journey of nutritional correction, many people discover that their palate changes, and they begin to crave the natural sweetness of the fruit over the artificial stimulation of processed sugars. This shift is a physiological and spiritual milestone, indicating that the body is realigning with the natural order. Dyer often spoke of shifting from ambition to meaning, and in the realm of diet, this is shifting from craving stimulation to craving nourishment. The pleasure derived from the berry becomes deeper and more satisfying because it is unaccompanied by the guilt or the crash that follows sugary snacks. It is a clean energy that sustains the mind rather than spiking and dropping it. Another aspect of this ritual is the communal or solitary nature of eating, and how the environment influences the digestion and utilization of nutrients. Eating in a state of stress, perhaps while watching disturbing news or arguing, causes the body to divert energy away from digestion and toward the fight or flight response. In this state, even a most miraculous superfood is poorly absorbed. Therefore, creating a peaceful atmosphere around the consumption of the fruit, perhaps sitting in silence, listening to music, or enjoying nature, is essential. This creates a rest and digest state where the parasympathetic nervous system is active, allowing the body to fully receive the gift of the food. Ultimately, the daily ritual of eating these berries serves as a recurring reminder of the intention to live a vibrant, memory-rich life. It is a tangible touchstone that brings the mind back to the present moment and the care of the self. Each serving is a vote for longevity, a message sent to the future self that says, "I care about you." This cumulative care results in a brain that remains plastic, a memory that remains accessible, and a spirit that feels supported by the physical form. It is a practice of grounding the high spiritual ideal of agelessness into the dense physical reality of the body, bridging the gap between who we are as infinite souls and who we are as human beings. How can I bring more peace to the moment I nourish myself? The ageless spirit and the renewed mind, the journey toward preserving memory and vitality, is ultimately a synthesis of biological science and spiritual truth, converging on the understanding that the human being is designed for longevity and wisdom. The integration of a powerful, antioxidant-rich fruit into the diet is a critical physical step, but it is the accompanying shift in consciousness that creates the real magic of ageless living. When the fear of decline is replaced by the joy of caring for the body, the internal chemistry shifts from degenerative to regenerative. The afternoon of life, as Wayne Dyer called the later years, becomes not a time of winding down, but a time of harvesting the wisdom planted in the earlier years, supported by a brain that has been protected and nurtured. The convergence of the deep blue pigment and the deep inner knowing of one's own worthiness creates a shield against the wear and tear of time. It is important to realize that memory is not just a filing cabinet of past events, but the connective tissue of the self, allowing the individual to maintain a continuous narrative of meaning. By protecting the hippocampus and the neural pathways with high-vibration nutrition, one is protecting the ability to tell their own story and to share their accumulated wisdom with the world. This is the responsibility of the elder in the community, to remain sharp and clear so that they can serve as a beacon for those who follow. The physical act of eating well is thus an act of service to the collective. While the body is finite and will eventually undergo transitions, the rate of that transition and the quality of the experience are largely under the control of the individual's choices and beliefs. The common enemy of genetic fatalism, the idea that one is doomed to the same fate as their parents, is defeated by the realization that the environment, including the internal environment of food and thought, dictates genetic expression. One can choose to break the cycle of decline by making different choices, by reaching for the wild berry instead of the processed sweet, and by reaching for the thought of gratitude instead of the thought of fear. This is the ultimate freedom, the ability to curate the inputs that shape the life experience. The promise of a sharp mind at 90 is not a guarantee of immortality, but a promise of a fully lived life, where the lights remain on until the very end. It is about possessing the cognitive bandwidth to appreciate the beauty of the world, to connect deeply with loved ones, and to continue learning and expanding. The blueberry, in all its humble simplicity, serves as a powerful ally in this quest, a small package of sunlight and earth that helps keep the channels of the mind open. It reminds us that the solutions to our most complex health challenges are often found in the simple, abundant provision of nature, waiting for us to align with them. In the end, the state of the memory and the mind is a reflection of the love with which the life has been lived and the body has been fed. By choosing to honor the temple with the best fuel and to honor the spirit with the highest thoughts, the individual steps into a state of grace where age is merely a number and vitality is a constant state of being. The fog lifts, not just because the neurons are firing, but because the spirit is shining through a vessel that has been kept clean and clear. This is the art of aging with energy, a masterpiece painted one choice, one bite, and one thought at a time. What legacy of wisdom do I want my clear mind to preserve?